Hi guys, and welcome to today's video. It is so bright here. I'm gonna be squinting a lot because it is just so bright. Anyways, if you follow me on Instagram or TikTok, you've probably seen my day-to-day vlogs about my giant bug sculptures that I'm making. You might be thinking, okay, why is she doing this? Here's one behind me. Her name is Margot. I'm sure a lot of you know that I make a lot of large bug sculptures. Last year for my undergrad solo exhibition, I made a 13-meter long centipede. Last summer, I made a 10-foot wide spider sculpture. So making large bugs is not new to me. It is kind of my hobby. I'm currently doing a residency at Art Windsor, Essex, and it is a 3-month residency. It is called the RBC Emerging Artist Residency, and essentially I get to come into the art gallery, and use their studio to create art. What I am doing for this residency is making a bunch of giant bug sculptures. This is one of many I will be working on in the next 3 months. She's quite big. She is quite large. This is the Harlequin Bug, and it is native to North America, but found in Mexico, and they're usually found in orchards, citrus groves, farms, gardens, feeding on the juices of plants. It's a major agricultural pest, and it is a type of stink bug. I chose this bug because it's from the area I'm from, and I wanted to start off with a bright, colorful bug with a really nice, kind of intricate pattern. Basically, I'm going to talk about how I made this, and it took me about a little over 4 days. I would say 5 days. I started Monday night, and I officially started my residency on Tuesday. Yeah, I finished her on Friday, so pretty fast at working. I'm going to put her down because I'm putting photos up on the screen, but I just want you to know that she's the star of the show. So before I started making the bug, I needed to draw it a bunch to get to know it, see what I was getting into. There are some variations to the patterns on the back, like the black kind of spots, and I ended up drawing 4 different patterns that I liked, and I had people on Instagram vote for which ones I liked best. They ended up voting 1 and 3 as the favorites, so I kind of made a mixture of the two. First thing I did was draw the general bug shape onto 1/2-inch plywood. Essentially, I want a sturdy base to mount the bug. All of these bugs will be displayed together at Dry Goods Gallery in September, so I wanted to make sure they're all sturdy and I'm able to mount them on the wall. Yes, the tops are all plush, but the bottom is hardwood. My brother helped me cut the shape out of plywood, and I sanded all of the splintery bits down. Next thing I did was cover the base in some fleece. I got all my fleece from the thrift store in forms of blankets, and I end up cutting them all up and I wash them. Make sure you wash them. It is a lot cheaper than buying the fleece brand new from a fabric store. It's still kind of expensive. Thrift store prices are going up, but still, it's a lot cheaper to buy the fabric secondhand, wash it, and cut it apart than buy it new. Okay, so I covered the whole base, and the reason I do that is so I'm able to sew on the sides of it and basically all around it, and by sew I mean hand sewing. After that, I cut out a bunch of shapes to create the shell kind of area. I don't follow a pattern. I literally just eyeball it and make it up on the spot, and everything seems to work out, so I'm not going to change my habits. Then I stuff it a bunch so it's soft, and that's how we get this plushiness. I did this all Monday night, so I was able to bring in the Tuesday, my first day, I started crocheting the pieces, and I use 100% Canadian wool. It's called the Woolen by Fleece artist, not sponsored, just I'll put it in the description anyways because a lot of people ask me. And I hand dye that with acid dye in my parents' basement. So for large things pieces of the bug, I like to crochet it and then dye it after the piece is crocheted. The reason I like doing that is because you can get gradients, and it's easier to dye a gradient. If you have a gradient radiating from here, it's easier to do that if you finish the piece first and then dye it rather than dyeing it before you crochet it, especially when you're working freehand like me. By freehand, I mean literally everything I'm doing, I just make it up on the spot and I undo it if it's bad, and that's it. Then on Wednesday, I continue doing the same thing of crocheting all the pieces for the body. I ended up finishing all of the orange pieces, and I ended up dyeing them, which I mentioned before. So I dyed them orange, and then after that, I soaked the areas I wanted to be darker and red, and then steamed the heck out of it, so the dye ended up staying. On Thursday, I finished all of my crocheting, and I got started making the appendages. She has 6 legs and 2 antennas. All of the appendages were made out of fleece that I thrifted. Then I went home and I dyed all of the black pieces even darker. It was just kind of a gray when I was crocheting it, and then I decided, I was it would look a lot better if I made it jet black. So I dyed it again. Came out great, really nice and rich. On Friday, all of my pieces were dyed and dried, so I came in and I sewed all of the pieces to the body. I just pin everything to the plush body and hand sewing it down, and that's a lot easier said than done. Hand sewing is very tedious and takes a lot of time. I have a lot of people telling me oh, I don't like to hand sew, but you need to learn how to hand sew. My biggest recommendation for people starting off crocheting, learn how to hand sew. Hand sewing is so important and like so essential, and it makes you better. Is that bad to say? It makes you better, I think. And I really love hand sewing. I've been hand sewing for like as long as I can remember, so I recommend you learn how to hand sew. But that took me basically all day. Hand sewing the pieces to the body took me all day. I cut the appendages out of black fleece, and then I wrapped the ugly fabric appendages in the nicer fabric, and then I hand sewed around the edges, and so that's how I got the appendages to be jet black. I could have just done it in black, but I prefer to like do it in like an ugly fleece, so I'm able to stuff it and then I can wrap around it so no stuffing pops out and it's a bit more solid. That's just my personal preference. But basically I was hand sewing all day, but I finished it and my fingers really hurt after that, but that's okay, it's all worth it. Friday night I ended up sketching some new bugs, and I had people vote on which one I could do next on Instagram. Black root weevil versus a green lacewing. Green lacewing won. I thought there'd be some competition, but green lacewing kind of stole it all. I'm very excited. I'm already getting started. It's Monday. I'm starting to make her. If you would like to suggest bugs and help me choose the next bug to do, go to my Instagram. I'm constantly posting stories, updates, and whatnot. If you'd like to get involved and help me, that's the place to go. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'm going to answer as many as I can next video. I think that would be fun. Comment a bug emoji if you made it to the end of this video. Shout out to, I think it's Liza Hines 2731 for making it to the end of last week's video. And thank you so much for watching. I will see you next week. Goodbye.